Welcome to Critical DMG, a podcast about two best friends who might have grown up but never grew out of their love for the Game Boy. We will be playing and reviewing every North American title released on Nintendo's original handheld console. This is episode 51. I'm Tony, and I think I'm about to pop this bubble.
Oh, I popped the bubble a lot. I'm Jeff, and today we are talking about Bubble Ghost. Before we get into that and how we were popping the bubbles and all of that fun stuff, we did want to just, I think maybe our final reminder, maybe we'll do it again next episode, who knows?
Maybe.
Our 1 year is coming up, and again, we would love to do a Q&A. We appreciate all the questions that we've gotten already, but if anyone else has any questions that they would like for us to answer, contact us however you can. We want to hear from you.
We'll probably fill in some of the extra space with just the yapping and talking about how our first year is gone. You've heard this already if you've listened to the previous episodes, but we want those questions. So get them in if you got them.
Please. With that, Tony, what's your immediate opinion on Bubble Ghost?
My immediate opinion is I wish that I was playing this on a touchscreen.
Okay.
So I guess no.
Yeah, I can maybe see that. I'm also a no, and I think there is one thing that could potentially change my mind. It is not a touchscreen, but that's wrap-up talk. Before we get into the mechanics and all of that fun stuff, can you give us the back of the box?
I can. Back of the box for Bubble Ghost. Take a breath and enter a topsy-turvy world where one of your greatest enemies is an electric fan. Control the cute ghost who loves blowing a bubble through a wacky haunted house. His soft breath can move it, but a fragile bubble doesn't stand a ghost of a chance against a candle flame or the breeze from a fan. If the bubble bursts, pop goes the puzzle. Maneuvering around the many hazards is only part of the fun. You must also find your way through the maze-like halls. It's an amazing puzzle that will blow your mind and leave you breathless. Adapted from the international best-selling PC game. 35 screens, each one trickier than the last. Bonus bar gives you extra points for speed. Challenges your speed, reflexes, timing, and your mind.
We need to keep a tally of how often we hear amazing.
I was thinking that too.
It was fun. It was fun the first time.
I think it would be Quirk, Godzilla, Bubble Ghost.
Maybe, yeah. There's definitely three. I don't remember what the middle one is. But Bubble Ghost, we're in November of 1990, so I kind of imagine we will hear amazing quite a few more times. Published by FCI, so Fujisankei Communications International, I guess the US arm of the Japanese company. Though in Japan, it was released by Pony Canyon, which I like that name a lot better than FCI. Regardless, as the back of the box kind of said, originally developed in 1980 for the Atari ST computer. From what I can tell, is a relatively faithful port to the Game Boy.
Relatively. Mechanically, they are pretty much the same, but they definitely look a little bit different, and we could probably get into that a little bit more when we get into the aesthetics.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't have anything else kind of in the background section. Do you have anything, or do you want to just go ahead and dive into the mechanics?
No, it already pretty much covered the international best-selling. Yes, this was a Atari game that was not developed in the US or Japan, actually, this time, the original, and I am saving some of that for later, too, so sorry for the engagement bait, everybody, but you'll have to stick around.
All right, let's dive into the mechanics. All right, so this game calls itself a puzzle game. I kind of struggle calling it a puzzle game. To me, it's more like action-y, or, you know, you're kind of just going through the motions.
That's fair.
The goal is, to escape the mansion or castle or whatever with your bubble. So you're a little ghost. You try to escape with your bubble. Controls, pretty simple. Your D-pad moves you around. Pushing A will blow, so you can move the bubble with that and interact with things by blowing on them. Tony, of the 35 levels, did you escape the mansion, or how far did you get?
I did not escape the mansion, and I think that this might be one of the shortest recorded sessions that I have had for the show so far.
Okay.
I bounced off of this pretty hard. Part of the reason for that is, like I said earlier on, I would much rather be playing this with something far more responsive than a Game Boy directional pad.
Okay.
How about you? Do you feel the same? Because that's really what made me bounce off of this, was the control here. Because it's very simple controls, but I do not feel that they handle very well.
Yeah, I definitely agree that it is probably on the shorter side of my recordings as well.
Uh-huh.
I got to level 11, and I did that in about 10 minutes, so
Okay.
didn't take too long. I think the bonus time you have for each level is just about a minute, and I beat all of them with plenty of bonus time left.
Mm-hmm.
But one of my big notes on the mechanics is that it's a little bit awkward getting the bubble to kind of go where you want, to have it go short distances. There were a lot of times where I thought I was blowing directionally down or left or whatever, and I was actually blowing diagonally, which kind of cool that it had like the 8 directions that you could kind of move.
Sure.
But essentially how to do that is you move your ghost in relation to the bubble, and then you push A and it'll blow, and if you're close enough, the bubble will move. If you're just a little bit off and on the diagonal, not blowing directly in whatever direction you want, it's very easy to blow the bubble into a wall or an obstacle. I agree with you. I don't know if I think a touchscreen would have been a whole lot better, but I can definitely get behind the kind of lack of control it felt like you had.
I say that a touchscreen would be better because I have essentially already played a game just like this on my DS a long time ago. I believe it was called Soul Bubbles, and it controls essentially the same way that this game does, where you're just navigating a character around like a maze and you're blowing bubbles through that maze and trying to make sure they don't pop. But because it's a DS game, you're controlling it with the stylus on the touchscreen, and it feels way better to do that than to do this here. Because yes, I agree that the 8 directional movement is nice, and I also think that the physics on the bubble are handled pretty well. But the ghost does not handle well. And you will be trying to angle yourself diagonally, and it just won't cooperate. You'll be pointing up, you'll be pointing left or right, or you'll get it to go in the direction you want, the angle that you want the ghost to actually be pointing, but then as soon as you take your hands up off of the directional pad, it snaps back to like a neutral or like a different position, and it messes up your whole movement plan. And then you've got to try and finagle it to get back to where you were. And the bubble, because of the physics of it, kind of floats sort of listlessly after you've given it a puff of air. And that's nice to see happen. But when all of a sudden you've been turned around and you're facing the wrong direction and your bubble is just like wafting off toward a wall or a spike or a candle flame or something, you might overcorrect and then blow it exactly where you don't want it to go. And I don't think that that's intentional. I don't think that that's like a difficulty thing here. I think it's just the fault of the controls being what they are, because playing it on something like this on a touchscreen, or the Atari version, which was like an early computer version, so you had a mouse. Either of those, I feel, would have been much more suitable for what this game is trying to get you to do.
That's what I was going to say is, yeah, I did read that the original version, you controlled the ghost with your mouse.
Yeah. I
agree. Getting the bubble to go kind of like a short distance is quite awkward. I do think that is partially intended as far as the mechanics and the gameplay go. A lot of times you have to kind of blow it in the other direction to then blow it back, because what I found is it doesn't really matter how far away your ghost is, as long as you're close enough to, I guess, have the breath move the bubble, it'll kind of move about the same distance regardless.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like pressure sensitive, you could say.
Which I did wish there was maybe a little bit of a better way to do that. If you blow it, we'll say straight up, and then you blow it to the right, it'll kind of stop moving straight up and go to the right. So you can kind of stop it in, a certain direction by doing that.
Yeah.
Still a little bit awkward with that. I did appreciate that the ghost could like fly through everything.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was nice.
That would have made the game completely unplayable. If you also got caught on candle flames or whatever, this would be an absolute disaster.
Yeah, agreed. So a little bit of a flavor win also made the game, I think, playable. So that's nice. And then we've mentioned multiple times, kind of like candles and fans and blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
There are little obstacles that, for the most part, I think
they're good. I think that they're done really well. And I think that the puzzle portion of the game, being those obstacles, is probably my favorite part of what is presented in the package here. Navigating the bubble is fine. I wish it controlled a little better. I think that if it had a press A to long breath or like controlled breath or whatever, and press B for just like a little like whispery kind of puff just to get the bubble to go a little bit instead of a long way, I think that might have really given it a little bit more control and I would have less of an issue with that part. But the puzzling part I think is good. I love the candle flames that you can blow out. I love that there's just these weird contraptions around that you can blow into one end of and it makes the other end work. It's done in a really cute way, and I don't think any of the puzzles, at least from the levels that I did, were like mind-bending or really brain-scratching or whatever.
Yeah, and I think that's why I say I struggle to call it a puzzle game, because nothing really felt like you had to figure out anything past maybe, do I go the upper route or the lower route? And
right.
To me, that does not make a puzzle game. And then the obstacles, yeah, you essentially have, I'm going to lump them kind of into 3 separate categories. One is kind of your walls, your static things that don't move. Then you have kind of moving obstacles, so like these little stars that kind of get bigger and smaller, like spikes that move in and out. And then you have interactable, I guess, objects.
Yeah, those were what I was talking about. It's like a trumpet on one side that you blow into, and then it has the other side do a thing, like it turns a fan off or something like that. I think those were really cool. I think that was a really cute touch.
I found those to be maybe a little bit gimmicky, kind of once you figure out the first one.
Sure.
You're like, okay, this is, before I move the bubble, I just go turn these off. I do think they get a little bit more complicated as the, levels go on. It was interesting, and yeah, I guess to your point, a good variety in kind of obstacles that you had to move through. And maybe if they kind of did something like you said, where the B button kind of gives like a little puff, maybe that would take away some of the, I don't know, quote unquote fun or challenge of the game.
No, I don't think so. I don't think that would be the case. Like, if you had more control over the breath in a smaller way that made it so that the bubble didn't go as far, then yeah, it might mean that you would be more controlled in beating the level. But if you're someone who cares about the high score, which is obviously what the game is trying to get you to care about, then it would mean that you would not be able to complete the levels as fast because you would be going slower and making the bubble move not as far with each breath. I feel like it would offer some good decision of, do I use the small breath to navigate a tight space and then make a mad dash with big puffs of air at the end, or do I just try and go full bore the whole time? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I could see that.
I don't think it would detract in that way. I actually think that it would really just up the mechanical package here without taking anything away, because if you don't care about the high score, in the first place, then what would you care if you were just presented with an easier way to beat the game, and the only difference is you would maybe not get as high of a score per level?
I agree. I think I would have more fun with it if that were the case, if you did have a bit more control. Just throwing it out there that, yeah, maybe someone might say, well, that would be too easy then, but
Sure.
I think I would have had more fun with it if that were the case. Because you do have, I guess, a limited number of lives and continues. So you start with 5 lives. You do get a new one, I think, every like 5 or 6 levels or so.
Oh, is that what it is? I couldn't tell. I saw that I was getting new lives, but I thought it was tied to points.
The manual says each time you move the bubble through one level, i.e. 6 through 11, you get another ghost player. So per the manual, yeah, I guess it's once you make it through every so many levels. You then also only have 2 continues. So when you run out of your 5 lives or however many lives, game over, you can continue right where you're at. You can do that twice, and then game over for real. And there's no password system.
Yeah. After playing as many games that we have for the show and other games and whatever, I think I have fallen squarely on the side of I don't mind having limited lives, but if I'm going to have limited lives, I want unlimited continues or a robust password system of some kind, because having the limited lives here would be fine. It's kind of weird that it's the ghost and not the bubbles that you're getting more of. Like, why does the ghost disappear, if you lose a bubble? But anyway, I wouldn't mind so much having to retry if I fail too many times. That's whatever. But if I get so deep into the castle, level 10, 11, whatever, and then I bomb out and I only have so many continues, I would like to keep going. I would like to be able to pick up and make it through the rest of the castle. But, that's just something that I don't think we're going to get too much of. Either it's not going to happen until later on in the process, or we're not ever really going to get that, because limiting the continues and making players have to start over all the way from the beginning is just one of those things that happen during this time that we're going to be seeing so much of, and I'm already sick of it by now.
I agree, and I guess a little bit of a spoiler for our wrap-up. That is the one thing that I think I would change that would make me feel differently about this game. I'm not going to get too deep into my thoughts on that, but really a password system of any kind is probably what it would have been.
Sure.
With that, I don't have really much else for the mechanics. Is there anything else you want to touch on before we take a quick break?
I don't think so. There is not really a whole lot here mechanically. I think we've basically covered it and then some.
I agree. So, after a quick ad break, we'll get back to the creative discussion, and I think we might have a little bit more to talk about in that section.
Maybe. Anyway, ad break.
Outlaws and ruffians have had it their way out in the Wild West for too long. But someone's coming to bring them to justice. And justice is colored green. Kero Kero Cowboy is a brand new platformer for the Game Boy Color and Analog Pocket. Our faithful peacekeeper is a frog named Kero Kero, on a journey to wrangle the Wild West's most dangerous outlaws and bring peace to the wide open plains. With a sticky tongue and his trusty six-shooter, he'll face dastardly foes, perilous platforming, and intense shootouts across deserts, mines, mountains, trains, forests, and beyond. Kero Kero Cowboy by Metagame Mike. That's Kero Cowboy. Out now on Steam and itch.io. So giddy up now, partner, and help Kero Kero take back the West.
Can't seem to clear any lines in your Tetris? Stuck underwater in Super Mario Land? The old Pokemon grind got you feeling blue? Then stay tuned to Critical DMG. It won't make you better at Game Boy games, but at least you won't feel so alone in how bad you are at them once you've listened to us. Users must provide their own Game Boy. Batteries not included. Certain conditions apply. Void where prohibited. Critical DMG is not responsible for any worsening gameplay after consuming our podcast. And we're back. I was going to say, and we're bubble, but no, I think we're still...
I almost did.
I thought you were thinking the same thing, but I don't think it works.
I almost did, and I was like, no, I don't want to force it, so...
No, it doesn't sound good. We'll find one. We'll get there. Anyway, I have no comments on the music here whatsoever. I don't think I could even tell you what it sounded like. And I know that that's unusual for me. I usually at least have a little bit more to say about the music, but it was not really anything that stuck in my brain in any way. So I guess take that for what you will.
I thought it was fine, but I got quite annoyed of it, 5-10 levels in, because I feel like it was like very upbeat, a bit too epic, or it felt like I don't know, something more should be happening than just kind of floating around, blowing a bubble around.
Sure.
I thought it was good, but just not for this. I saw it noted that it was one of the first games that Hitoshi Sakamoto, who I guess has done Final Fantasy music, etc., seems like a relatively big composer, and obviously Final Fantasy music is fantastic. So
yeah, I saw that too. I went to the Wikipedia page to see if it was listed in the discography, of games work, to be like, yes, here is the album that was worked on. But I didn't find it. I should have probably checked maybe Moby Games as well. But yeah, interesting for someone who, if this is confirmed, again, I couldn't see it in the actual Wikipedia page for the artist, not just this game.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we're not lying there. If we are, and let us know. But looking at some of the other things that they had created, I know a lot of those games and a lot of the music soundtracks are very good. So I do think, like I said, this music probably fits a Final Fantasy battle better than Bubble Ghost, but that is what it is.
We had Snoopy's Magic Show also have music that was just extremely ill-fitting, so I don't know, maybe that's just a trend that we're going to be hitting, but yeah, that's the music here. Sound effects, basically nothing to really talk about at all there. The game is actually kind of quiet as far as sound effects go.
Yeah.
The contraptions and stuff aren't really making a bunch of noise in the background, and there's just kind of little squeaky kind of puffing sounds when you're breathing and stuff like that, but there's nothing really here that stands out. And I'm actually kind of glad for that, just because of how the Game Boy handles the sound versus the music. Obviously, nowadays, the music and sound in video games are handled in their own separate channels, and they can go off at the same time, and it doesn't mess with anything, and everything is fine. But that's not how it works on the Game Boy. If a sound is trying to play and it's using the same channel for that sound that the music is using in the background, then there can be interference, and the sound will basically cannibalize the track, and you won't hear the music in the same way. That's just kind of how it happens, because there is so much less to work with. And if there was a bunch of background noise here from the fan spinning, or the spikes jutting out of the wall, or a flame burning on the candle or something, and all of that was competing with the music, I would dislike it even more.
Yeah, I could see that.
I would rather it be nondescript, I guess, than be awful as an auditory experience.
100%. I think if they tried to add more than they already did, I do think it would be a bit cluttered and probably not super fun to listen to.
Right.
I did find the Ghost Sprite to be quite cute.
Oh, I think it's adorable.
Fun little animations and things like that.
Yeah.
I love the little grumpy ghost. If you pop the bubble, the ghost kind of gets angry at you and gives you like a little bit of like an angry face, which I found, kind of funny and interesting. It's like, Ghost, you're the one who blew it into the wall. That's not on me, even though I'm controlling you, but still.
I think everything here aesthetically is pretty cute. I think the Ghost Sprite is adorable, and I will say, when compared with the one on the original Atari version, definitely we got the better Ghost Sprite.
Yeah.
The Ghost Sprite here is just very cute, has such an adorable personality, so that's just a win for this one here on the Game Boy. But everything here looks really good, very cute, very classic haunted house, weird gadgetry around, like there's, candles held in, sconces, and there's weird electric fans and pipes and spikes and all these other sorts of things that it's just like weird that it's there, I guess, but it makes sense for like the setting that they're trying to get. Oh, it's just this ghost's like weird haunted castle or something like that.
Agreed.
And I think it's cute and cohesive in a way that I like.
Yeah, and I think it's all readable. You can pretty easily tell, kind of like once you've seen the gimmicks once or twice, okay, I need to blow in this thing to turn off the fan, or to, I don't know, I need to blow in the trumpet to make the, I don't know, snake go away, or, like, you kind of very quickly learn, like, okay, this is what I need to do. These are things that are potentially dangerous. So I think it's quite readable. The HUD is quite good. You know, it shows your points, it shows your lives. Nothing really to complain about there. I think it's maybe a little bit on the big side, but I don't think you need any extra room for the actual levels. So that's fair. I also kind of like that the Ghost could not completely go over, I guess, the top and the bottom HUD, but, you know, it can kind of go outside of the level a bit, which I kind of liked. It's a Ghost. It makes sense.
Yeah, I think that, especially considering how little color they obviously have to work with here, everything is very readable. The stuff that stands out or that needs to stand out does stand out.
Mm-hmm.
I never found myself thinking, oh, what? I didn't know that that was going to pop my bubble or, you know, anything like that. Everything was like, oh, yeah, that's a candle. There's a flame. That's probably going to pop the bubble. There's a weird, like, nail jutting out of the ceiling or whatever. That's going to pop my bubble.
And I feel like the hitboxes on everything visibly made sense.
Oh, yeah.
You could tell if they were going to hit the bubble, you know, the outline of the bubble, then it was going to pop. They did a good job with all of that. At no point did I feel like I was losing or did I lose a life because I didn't read something correctly or something was unclear visibly. It was because of, yeah, kind of like that floaty lack of control that you had that we talked about in the mechanics.
Yeah, that's pretty much me too. The bubble always moved the way that you would think that it should, like, and I don't just mean mechanically, but it like animated in this nice little wobbly way.
Mm-hmm.
All of the contraptions moved in ways that were very obvious as to what they were. Like the fan blades were spinning and you knew that that's what that was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
The snake moving around, you could tell that, you know, it's a live snake. It's for some reason, it's going to pop your bubble or whatever. All of that stuff looked really good and was very charming in this kind of oddball thematic way of like, why is all this stuff just like scattered around this haunted castle or whatever? And if you read into the story, like in the manual, they don't really go into it. It's just kind of like, yeah, there's a ghost here. The ghost loves bubbles.
Yep.
And now it wants to take the bubble out of the castle.
For reasons.
Just because. It's going to do it and then it's going to blow it back into the castle, and that's just how the game starts over and over again, I guess. It doesn't matter. It's fine that it is so slim. It does not bother me that it's just a ghost having a fun time in this castle that it haunts.
Mm-hmm.
I think the story is exactly what it needs to be for that, especially because even though the background is kind of minimal, I think they do a good job of patching in the flavor in other ways by talking about like the ghost's personality. Like, oh, if you pop the bubble, it'll get mad and turn somersaults at you or whatever. And so they really paint this picture of like, what's this game about? Oh, a ghost moving a bubble around. Okay, well, that's not really a whole lot to go on.
Yeah.
But they characterize everything very, very well. The ghost is cute. It animates very cute and very smoothly. The bubble and the obstacles around and how everything interacts in the environment look nice and move smoothly. Like, it's good to look at, and everything moves in the way that you would want it to. And so, you know, I can't really ding it for anything in the aesthetic section, honestly. Just for the way it looks, I guess.
The one thing I will complain about as far as looks-wise, the ending cutscene is kind of a little bit boring. It took me a long time to find it because I surely did not play that much of the game, and a lot of the gameplay I saw kind of ended about the same place that I did. So it took me some digging to find the last couple of levels and the ending cutscene.
Mm-hmm.
But essentially, you leave the castle and it's kind of just the ghost floating around the bubble, kind of like in a square.
Sure.
It was fine, but I feel like, yeah, the other animations they had for the ghost were quite cute and stuff like that. So it was maybe a little boring, in my opinion, but I guess at least it was there and it didn't just cut to black or whatever.
I mean, maybe disappointing, maybe exactly the right vibe for everything else in the game, as far as we've discussed it so far. But The title screen is cute, I guess, is probably my final note starting at the beginning, is I think that the title screen is very cute. And I actually like how they scroll the credits in the way that they do. Like, if you push the button, the game will start, but if you don't, instead of like running a demo or some other kind of attract mode or something, they just scroll the credits.
Yep.
And I think that that's nice. I think it's a nice place to put those if you're going to put them somewhere other than just the end.
Yeah, I agree. I also don't have anything else for the creative side, so I guess do you just want to get into your wrap up?
Yeah, I still don't think that I would recommend it. I really do feel, as cute as it is, and it is cute. We definitely just spent a lot of this last time talking about how cute it was for good reason. It's adorable. I really do believe that it looks very cute and animates very well, but I don't really think that it plays very well. And if I was going to play a game that did this thing, I would not go to play this one. I would play it with something that I felt handled this better, like preferably a touchscreen. Okay. Like I said, I really think touchscreen is the way to go with this. But even the mouse, like the Atari version has, that might even be better too. I don't know. I can see people really enjoying this game.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it is adorable, and it's not super hard or anything like that. It's just, to me, dated in a not fun way. I don't want to go back to this one, whereas other Game Boy games that we've played, even if they have modern contemporaries, I still could find reason to want to play the older versions. This, I do not feel that same reason. I would much rather play an updated version of this that has controls I feel are more amenable to the gameplay than this one.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think I'm also still a no. However, yeah, like you said, it is one of those games that if someone were to tell me that it's one of their favorite games or they love it or they're very nostalgic for it, anything like that, okay, good. Like I could see that and I would not think anything was off there.
Yeah, sure.
I could definitely see someone really enjoying this game. For me personally, again, it was kind of that lack of a password system that really detracted a lot from this game. Because I could honestly see myself, especially as a younger gamer, getting hard stuck on, a level. I got to level 11, and while I wouldn't say it was super hard, it was definitely hard enough that I could see myself game overing there a number of times.
Yeah.
And like I said, it took me a while to find the ending of this game, because it seemed like a lot of people kind of between level 10 and 15 seemed to get stuck, or that is when they ran out of continues and had to restart. And so, even if there was a password system every 5 levels, 10 levels, I think that would be better than essentially what it equates to like an extremely long run back to get to the difficult section. I do like difficult games, but I think a lot of people dislike when you're playing Elden Ring and you have to just ride your horse for 2 minutes to get back to your boss, or same thing with Hollow Knight, or same thing that we kind of saw with Double Dragon, Spider-Man, Ninja Turtles. You get to a point that is difficult and potentially fun to figure out and do all of that, but then you die and you have to do the entire level over again. This is the same thing, except you have to go through 10 levels, and level 1 through 5, even though I know I die in them, I was learning the mechanics, but they're essentially just freebies.
Oh, for sure.
They're very simple, and so it feels like just a waste of time as opposed to fun gameplay to get back to the challenging part that is actually what you're like stuck on or having fun with. So that's my biggest issue with it, is if you're game overing on level 15, it's going to take you 12 minutes, 15 minutes to get back to that level to then try it again. And to me, that is a not fun game loop. Maybe I would pull it out of my, Game Boy case, play it through once or twice, and then get done with it and play something else. But unless that sort of stuff doesn't bother you, for the most part, I would say probably stay away from it.
I guess I don't really have anything else to add. I think my final word is no asterisk, because I don't think that this is like a broken game or a unplayable mess or, totally devoid of fun or anything like that. I just did not click with it. And so would I recommend somebody to play it? No, I would not. But the asterisk being that I could see somebody enjoying this because I do not think that this is, some sort of unredeemable disaster here on the Game Boy. It just wasn't for me.
Agreed.
And like Jeff said, the password thing really is kind of a sticking point because we are 51 games deep. We have seen many password systems and other ways to continue games from like a previous point. So to not have that here is really kind of glaring, I guess, is to be like, wow, how is there not any kind of way to continue? But anyway, we've dragged that out long enough. Jeff, it's quiz time.
Quiz time. So I'm currently at 82.3%. So I've been around that for quite a bit. And let's see how Bubble Ghost does.
What could I possibly have to talk about for this quiz?
It's always scary.
I mean, it's a ghost. Boo. Okay. Bubble Ghost quiz. Question 1. We may not cover the PAL releases here on Critical DMG, but I couldn't pass up what I think is a pretty interesting game development fact about Bubble Ghost on the Game Boy. At this point in the timeline, which is to say November 1990,
Yep.
there has still not been any exclusively PAL region released games yet, at least from what I saw. Feel free to correct me, anybody, but from the massive list of Game Boy games available, I have not seen any PAL region exclusives yet. But this game may have an admittedly unsubstantiated and unverified claim going for it about its own European origin. Is it true or false that this is the first game originally developed in France to be brought to the Game Boy?
That is, again, allegedly true. I saw this as well and tried to kind of dig into it.
Me too.
So I'm going to feel really silly if it's wrong. But yeah, I saw this claim, tried to dig into it, and couldn't really find anything. But allegedly, that is true.
C'est vrai, it is true. I saw this little tidbit on the Wikipedia page for the game, and it has no citation. It just says citation needed. So I scanned the list of games that have been released so far. None of the other titles seemed to come from France or French developers originally that I found, despite there being some other like early European computer games to be ported before Bubble Ghost was. Again, no official citation to go along with this, but cursory research seems to prove that it's true, so if anyone has greater knowledge or more research time on their hands, please step up with a correction in the comments or on our socials if it turns out that that's not true. But as far as we know, this was the first French-developed game brought to the Game Boy, so vive la France. Question 2. A remake of this game was actually brought to us just last year, in 2025, by Spanish developers at Nakama Game Studio. Released for the Switch, Windows PC, and PS5, this updated version of the game features an additional 40 new levels on top of the original 35,
Wow.
as well as some bonus modes to challenge players. There's like a challenge mode, a speedrun mode. The more interesting thing, in my opinion, is that the story in the remake, as well as in the original Bubble Ghost on the Atari ST, is different than what we played on the Game Boy. But in what way? Which of these is part of the story of the original and remake versions of Bubble Ghost? Is it A, the ghost is a deceased inventor who lived in the castle? B, the ghost is just visiting the castle on holiday? C, the ghost isn't really a ghost, but a human who was cursed? Or D, it's actually just about a pale Frenchman blowing bubbles to beat the summertime heat?
I really wanted the ghost to be made out of bubbles.
Oh,
I don't know why. That's
That would be cute. It's like Bubble Buddy from SpongeBob.
Yeah, and that would also make sense as to why, when you pop a bubble, he gets mad because, maybe that's like he popped his hand out as a bubble to blow around and you just popped it. But
better game.
all of that stalling aside, I'm going to go with he was a deceased inventor, I guess.
A.
Yeah.
Good guess. It is A.
Let's go. Every once in a while, I get lucky.
In the US manual, anyway, for the Atari ST version of Bubble Ghost, the mad inventor who lived in the castle was called Heinrich von Stinker.
Fair.
It's apparently become a fantastic tale in the castle's local village now that the place is haunted by the doctor's spirit. But the story makes it sound like the player is supposed to help the Bubble Ghost escape its previous home to make the haunting stop. I don't know. It's very strange. I think I like you're a funny little ghost just having a good time with some bubbles you found narrative better, personally.
I did find it weird that the ghost wanted to escape with their bubbles, but I guess, if you're playing a game in a house, blowing a bubble outside of the house makes sense. So I didn't think too deeply on it, but I agree. I think I like the little lightheartedness a bit better.
Oh, they thought very deeply for the original one, I think, because they very explicitly say that you are trying to lead the ghost out of the castle to make the haunting stop. So I guess canonically you're exorcising the ghost with its own bubble. That's depressing.
All right. What's question 3?
Question 3. At the bottom of a 2-page manual insert for the French version of the original Bubble Ghost, there's a developer bio for the man who worked on the game, Christophe Andriani. I really hope I'm getting that right. I had to look that up a couple times. In some overly flowery description, the paragraphs talk about how Andriani was born studious, with a sharp mind, and how he created his first game, Turbo GT, like some kind of gaming virtuoso. The bio concludes with the hope that he, quote, has other wonders in store for us. But did he? How many more games after Bubble Ghost is Christophe Andriani credited with developing according to his profile on Moby Games? A. 10. B. 0. C. 5. Or D. He never stopped, so the count is immeasurable.
Oh... I'm just gonna go with 5. Just the middle of the road. I vaguely want to say 0, but I'm gonna go with 5.
Yeah, they overshot, we'll say.
I'm still gonna go with 5.
Okay, well, you're wrong.
Dang
It's
it.
not 5, it's 0.
Dang it.
It's B. No matter what any hype for the original game might have wanted or led some to believe, I could not find any other games that Christophe Andriani had been credited working on. While he is credited as having originated the game Bubble Ghost for its development in that 2025 remake, it doesn't seem like he had any real hand in the process, and apart from that first game, Turbo GT, it seems like he was just done after those two.
Fair enough.
No more wonders in store.
2 for 3. I'll accept that. I'm at 81.9, so a little bit of a hit. But we'll take it. Can you remind us what our listener question for Balloon Kid was?
I can. Balloon Kid's question for the audience was about how there weren't really any sequels or follow-ups for Balloon Kid, speaking of other games that weren't really getting any of those, at least not on the Game Boy. But something that was left over and reused in the Game Boy's later life that came from Balloon Kid was something that has to do with one of my all-time favorite pieces of Game Boy hardware/software. Jeff, did you figure that out?
I did not. No, I could make guesses, but I guessed enough already on this quiz.
That's fair. It's the Game Boy camera.
That was going to be my first guess. I just couldn't figure out how that relates to Balloon Kid, but...
So let me tell you. My favorite little photography peripheral actually uses some of the sound effects as well as a boss fight track for its own music and sound needs. I had to go back and check for myself after learning this, but even scrubbing through both soundtracks, like literally I had them side by side and I was just like going back and forth between them, I could not pinpoint where the reuse is. It makes sense that it happened. The soundtrack for Balloon Kid and the soundtrack for the Game Boy Camera were both done by Tanaka Hirokazu. I wouldn't blame him for recycling his own work, obviously, especially when it's as good as it is, but like I couldn't find it. So it's in there, I just don't know exactly where.
Interesting.
Right.
That makes sense. I was thinking, I don't know what I was thinking. I could not figure out how to relate the camera to Balloon Kid. But with that question out of the way, what is the listener question for Bubble Ghost?
Audience question here is, in the original Atari version of the game, there was a bit more available for players to enjoy than what we got on the Game Boy. With the press of a key on your early computer keyboard, players could start a pass and play versus mode, or even run a short demo of the game in action. But if you really wanted to put some time into figuring out a difficult puzzle level for your next full castle run, you could press the P key, that's P as in Pony Canyon, to access a practice mode. But what would that do? Jeff.
Again, I could guess, but I don't know. And I'm not going to guess. So we'll hear my guess next week. And if you know, let us know in the comments.
We'll hold you to it. You have to guess on the next time when I ask you for this question.
All right, fair enough. Thanks for listening to Critical DMG. If you would like to support us further, you can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/criticaldmgpod. Join us there for monthly newsletters and extra content. Otherwise, please leave a review wherever you get your podcasts, and maybe recommend us to your friends or anyone else you might think that would like the show. It really helps us out, and we appreciate it. With that, I think we are done with our haunting for now, so done with Bubble Ghost. Join us next week when we, I think, have a relatively fun one, but we are talking about DuckTales.
Woohoo! I'm excited. I love the DuckTales video games on the NES, and I have never played the Game Boy adaptations, so I am really wondering how well they hold up, because anybody who has played the DuckTales games on the NES, I feel has a pretty high opinion about them, so...
Yeah, and I guess slight spoilers, it is a Capcom game. So hopefully...
That's true. That is true. They did port the game themselves.
Yeah. Hopefully it's a good showing, but join us next week and we'll figure it out together.
Please don't be bad. Please don't be bad. Join us to find out next time, everybody. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.